Okay, welcome everybody out tonight. And last week we talked about, and we had a real good turnout, which kind of surprised me for the topic. But last week we talked about how to protect your lifestyle during a period of stagflation. And anybody protected their life from stagflation yet?
I don't even know what stagflation is. So obviously I missed the meeting last week because I'm going, did I miss a meeting?
Apparently. Um,
Yeah, apparently.
it was kind of interesting. Y'all were gone, but yet we had, I think, the biggest crowd we've had ever. But and I wasn't expecting it for that topic. But
Excellent.
so I must have confused them this time. But anyway, stagflation. You have to go all the way back to Jimmy Carter days. Uh, Basically, it's where the economy is stagnated, and but yet we still have high inflation. So like
Oh,
like the early '80s, um, in that time period, high interest rates, high inflation, and
yeah.
an economy hitting on about three cylinders if it's a V8. So anyway, that seems to be the suggestion from a lot of economists and investors that that's probably what we're headed for again, regardless who wins the election in 2025. So anyway, so preparedness news today. Markets were up strongly today. Gold and Bitcoin hit nominal highs last week, and they weren't back to that, but they were both up. And Bitcoin down here, I think I said was like over 69,000, but right now it's one of the few things that I can check, after 4 o'clock that's change live, and it's on the hourly candle, a big green candle. It was up about $1,000 more in the last hour. So, like I said, that would tend to me to indicate that Trump is doing well, although I have no information to verify that. Um, Gold was up a little bit today. Goldbacks were actually down a nickel from last week, and silver's up a few cents, and the gold silver ratio is back up to 84 again. Tilt and zeros were both up today. It was all one market today. Everything was up. Wheat was up a little bit. The agricultural commodities were up. The energy-based and precious metal commodity funds were up. The only thing that was and the XAR, the industrial military complex, were all up except Boeing. Now, last week, all of this was completely reversed. Boeing was up and all these others were down. And we speculated last week that that was because people were expecting Trump to win, and therefore he would not be inclined to start new wars and would probably wind others down. And so that's why the thoughts last week, the consensus was that that's why all these military stocks were down. But you know, um, they're all up today except for Boeing. And so what does that mean? I don't
I
know.
don't know.
Guess maybe after midnight we might find out. But anyway, it seems to be opposite indicator to all the other things that I mentioned earlier. We'll see. And also, oil was up over $74, and I would have expected, if on a Trump victory, oil to go down because you know he's a drill baby drill guy. And so therefore we would probably have more production and oil prices would go down. So, but they're up pretty strongly today. So there's another contradictory indicator. And like I said, Bitcoin was when I was putting this together was over 69,000. It's over 70,000 right now. And so for what that's worth, like I said, it was pretty much all one market today. Everything up. Um, check Ethereum, but anyway, I suspect it was up too. So other headlines, we had this last week, which I think's the one thing that won't make any difference who wins the election also is the fact that we're going to deficit spend until we can't spend anymore, it looks like. 1.1 trillion in interest for last fiscal year.
Wow.
Just the interest. I keep saying that just like a water plan, you already have an unemployment plan. A lot of that's going around these days. Of course, we've got the hurricane recovery effort getting underway finally in some places, and possible war in the Middle East. The things that were going up today would indicate that the war in the Middle East is back on. Last week, it didn't look like it was, for the way the market was predicting anyway. So anyway. Seasonal information. Still time to plant trees here in the fall. You probably have to water them in because it's dry as a powder house out there. So I gotta hurry up and get my roof on so y'all can have some rain.
Is that what we're waiting for?
That's what I hear.
I think it's forecast for Thursday, isn't it?
Yeah, it's back on. It was yesterday, it was off, but today it's back on. So anyway, so you wouldn't think so, but we still haven't had a killing frost here. So you could all these things that I've been saying that it's too late to plant, you could have planted and been just fine. Probably need
Well, I did learn a valuable lesson this year, and that is while the frost heat's important, the hours of sunlight per day rapidly drop
yeah,
and make a big difference.
yeah. That's why my whippoorwill peas never matured, never blossomed, even though I had lots of vines, which the sheep enjoyed, but they never blossomed.
Not enough sun.
Yeah, not long enough and warm enough. So anyway, so good time to order your seeds for next year. Good time to still to get a hunting license. Hope everybody's got some potassium iodine, maybe some kelp to go with it. So any progress anybody would like to share? Lovely times we're having. Preparation. We've just been sitting on our duffs, last couple of weeks.
Scooting along the roof line.
Yeah. Share today's picture.
Excellent.
Almost looks like we're
Looking pretty
finished.
good.
It's like we're almost finished, looks like, but may take me a day around that chimney, but with Liz directing me.
What did I say earlier about the fewer people, the faster it goes?
What percentage are you done now?
We've only got about 3 foot left up there. So.
Oh, really? You were 1/3 done last I talked to you.
Yeah, we made real good progress yesterday and today. Once we got up there to once we got beyond the all the vents over here, there's a
Yeah.
cluster of like 7 vents over there. That
Yeah.
takes a lot of time. Then we had clear sailing from that last vent up to the chimney, and so that went really fast.
Good.
Mm.
That's great.
And we hit the chimney slow down, but trying to figure out step flush and all that.
Papa.
So tonight, we paste this into the chat here. So this is in the chat if anybody wants to grab it, for posterity's sake. And so I think I will play
Did
this.
you say you put something in chat?
I did.
Did you send? I'm not seeing it.
I don't see it either.
About now.
Nope.
I think it keeps trying, but
I got Mike's message.
I wonder if it's too big. Seems like there was a run into this before, is that it doesn't take a very big well, it's not telling me that. Yeah, messages have a limit of 1,000 characters. I think that's the problem. Um, okay, how do I get rid of what I've put in chat that I can't see them?
Just hit like Control A or backspace. Not working.
Okay. But again, I'll get half of it.
Yeah. Reinstall Windows.
Okay, hopefully
There we go.
half of it. So 1,146. Anyway, I can be working on this while we're while we're watching the video, but
Okay.
you getting a TED Talk?
Yep.
When I was 27 years old, I left a very demanding job in management consulting for a job that was even more demanding, teaching. I went to teach 7th graders math in the New York City public schools. And like any teacher, I made quizzes and tests, I gave out homework assignments. When the work came back, I calculated grades. What struck me was that IQ was not the only difference between my best and my worst students. Some of my strongest performers did not have stratospheric IQ scores. Some of my smartest kids weren't doing so well. And that got me thinking. The kinds of things you need to learn in 7th grade math, sure, they're hard. Ratios, decimals, the area of a parallelogram. But these concepts are not impossible. And I was firmly convinced that every one of my students could learn the material if they worked hard and long enough. After several more years of teaching, I came to the conclusion that what we need in education is a much better understanding of students and learning from a motivational perspective, from a psychological perspective. In education, the one thing we know how to measure best is IQ. But what if doing well in school and in life depends on much more than your ability to learn quickly and easily? So I left the classroom and I went to graduate school to become a psychologist. I started studying kids and adults in all kinds of super challenging settings. And in every study, my question was, who is successful here and why? My research team and I went to West Point Military Academy. We tried to predict which cadets would stay in military training and which would drop out. We went to the National Spelling Bee and tried to predict which children would advance farthest in competition. We studied rookie teachers working in really tough neighborhoods, asking which teachers are still going to be here in teaching by the end of the school year. And of those, who will be the most effective at improving learning outcomes for their students? We partnered with private companies asking which of these salespeople is going to keep their jobs and who's going to earn the most money. In all those very different contexts, one characteristic emerged as a significant predictor of success. And it wasn't social intelligence, it wasn't good looks, physical health, and it wasn't IQ. It was grit. Grit is passion and perseverance for very long-term goals. Grit is having stamina. Grit is sticking with your future, day in, day out, not just for the week, not just for the month, but for years, and working really hard to make that future a reality. Grit is living life like it's a marathon, not a sprint. A few years ago, I started studying grit in the Chicago public schools. I asked thousands of high school juniors to take grit questionnaires, and then waited around more than a year to see who would graduate. Turns out that grittier kids were significantly more likely to graduate, even when I matched them on every characteristic I could measure, things like family income, standardized achievement test scores, even how safe kids felt when they were at school. So it's not just at West Point or the National Spelling Bee that grit matters, it's also in school, especially for kids at risk for dropping out. To me, the most shocking thing about grit is how little we know, how little science knows about building it. Every day, parents and teachers ask me, how do I build grit in kids? What do I do to teach kids a solid work ethic? How do I keep them motivated for the long run? The honest answer is, I don't know. What I do know is that talent doesn't make you gritty. Our data show very clearly that there are many talented individuals who simply do not follow through on their commitments. In fact, in our data, grit is usually unrelated or even inversely related to measures of talent. So far, the best idea I've heard about building grit in kids is something called growth mindset. This is an idea developed at Stanford University by Carol Dweck, and it is the belief that the ability to learn is not fixed, that it can change with your effort. Dr. Dweck has shown that when kids read and learn about the brain and how it changes and grows in response to challenge, they're much more likely to persevere when they fail because they don't believe that failure is a permanent condition. So growth mindset is a great idea for building grit, but we need more. And that's where I'm going to end my remarks, because that's where we are. That's the work that stands before us. We need to take our best ideas, our strongest intuitions, and we need to test them. We need to measure whether we've been successful, and we have to be willing to fail, to be wrong, to start over again with lessons learned. In other words, we need to be gritty about getting our kids grittier. Thank you.
Okay. I tend to think that applies to us not so kids anymore too. And, what say you?
Oh, absolutely.
Uh,
It's actually been something I've focused on a bit in the last 10 years, just because a lot of things came easy for me as a kid, which meant I sort of gravitated toward those. And I didn't have parents that, made me take piano lessons or, things like that. So I feel like I've lacked some in that area. So I've tried to focus on it.
So anyway, here's the outline that I put in the chat, and this was this was a little developed by AI and me, but anyway, the highlights are mental preparation, and I'd kind of like to go through each one of these, and then y'all chime in with your life experiences and see what goes there. So the first one is acceptance. Recognize challenges as opportunities. That sound reasonable, or
Yeah, it definitely does.
positive mindset? Focus on solutions instead of what?
Instead of focusing on the problems or what doesn't work.
Okay. And maybe even what's going wrong in your life versus right.
Yeah, or focusing on, comparing yourself to other people.
Yeah. Self-awareness. Understand strengths and weaknesses. Anybody got any comments on that? Is that a weakness of you or a strength in your life?
I don't know. Sometimes I think a little lack of self-awareness can be like ignorance is bliss for some folks, it seems. But
I think it's most hardest to judge our own strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, I think it's harder to be accurate as well.
That's why we
Sometimes,
got spouses, isn't that right, Liz?
yeah, sometimes we're uh, blissfully ignorant of some things and overly critical of others, or put too much importance on some things that we maybe are our weaknesses. And I
But
think being objective with ourselves is hard.
yeah, Liz, I think your mic's off, by the way. Um, Mindfulness, stay present. What what do you think? What do you think that means, Tammy?
So Tam stepped away,
Okay.
but I think that's it's important. I mean, oh, it's funny. If you were the topic here is thriving during adversity, strategies for resilience. I don't know if I would have started with mental preparation, or emotional regulation, or actionable steps. I I I feel like the way to thrive through adversity is to have a broader vision, to know what's going on, where you're going, why, to find, and some of these kind of make sense, but to find good things in difficult, right? You can have a snowstorm blowing in, and you can moan and complain about how cold and awful it is and so forth. But you can also look around and see how beautiful it is and to identify the positives, which gets to this, say positive, but I guess it's just different wording than I would expect. It's having, um, I don't know, rolling with it and moving forward rather than fighting against it and complaining and moaning, and which all of these things fit into that. It's just worded differently, I guess, than what I would say.
Yeah. And back to your snowstorm analogy. I mean, you know, we really need the moisture, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And what a blessing it is that we have all this snow and moisture. There's you can always do the glass half empty or glass half full concept, and there is amazing uh, beauty, amazing blessings come with difficulty, right? And you can see change in your own life as you endure and accomplish and succeed. It gives you more resilience for the next thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of
Amen.
like I when years ago I got laid off from work. That was really hard. It was a rough time for me. It was a rough time for our family. We were out of work for 9 months, maybe 10 months. I'm not sure. It was brutal. Uh, but then, 7 or 8 years later, I got laid off again. It didn't affect me as much because I was confident in things like my skills. I was confident in blessings from Heavenly Father. I was confident on our family to withstand that. So there are a lot of amazing things that are good about difficult things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's why you guys should be teaching this, because everybody's got experiences and education and things that they've been through in life, and everybody's different. So we add all that
Yeah.
we add all that together, and for once, a committee is actually an improvement over a lone decision maker. Anyway, so emotional intelligence. They just say manage emotions. What does that mean? Number 2 through 4 has some ideas, but and,
See, and unfortunately, Winston, for me, the list isn't the way I think. So I can understand the words and I understand how that could be important, but I never think about managing my emotions, and maybe that's the self-awareness thing that I'm not aware of, but it's I just I don't think about that.
I don't think about managing emotions per se, but I do think about some of these individual things. So, my job can be pretty stressful. So sometimes, I mean, I'm really bad at being mindful, frankly. I'm bad at coming up for air sometimes from things. And so,
Yeah. Yeah,
sometimes,
like exercising or eating or those sorts of sleeping, that type of thing, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like I have to specifically like sort of make myself go outside in the day and get up and stand up and walk away from the computer and
Yeah,
sometimes
I
go.
agree. I do that consciously too. I have to get up out of my desk and just go for a walk, go for a run, do something other, and I come back clearer thinking, better, you know?
Yeah, yeah, same. I would say that I'm at a point where I'm getting more consistent, but it's definitely not like an automatic for me. Like I sort of have to go like, oh, it's been a while. Like I really should do this. I know that sometimes I'll think like I don't have time to do that, but then I'll have to tell myself, you know what? I need to do it.
Yeah. The interesting thing is, because there's a balance there. When I'm really focused on a project or a task or something that's really important to me, or I've just got a lot of pressure to do either through work or whatever. It's something that I really need to stay focused about. It's it's not a in my opinion, it's not a bad thing to be able to zone out all the things that you should be doing, like exercise and eating and walking around and breathing. And did you get your shoes on this morning? All the things that we need to do. Sometimes, I mean, it's the ability to focus like that so intently is, in my opinion, one of the strengths that I have. That
Yeah.
I can zone everything out, and I am like laser focused on something at times.
Well, if you can get it into a flow state where you're making progress, I agree that take that while you can get it. I
Yeah,
sometimes find
exactly.
myself,
And it's those interrupts that cause delays, because then you have to kind of come back into that, right? At least for
yeah.
me.
For me, sometimes I find myself laser focused when a better approach would be standing back so I can see the forest for the trees
Yeah, exactly.
and
I've
maybe aim that laser at a different spot.
Yeah, but the ability to laser focus in, I've used that through my life to be able to do that, because a lot of people can't. They just don't seem to be able to really focus. Really,
Yeah.
it is exactly what you need to be doing, and you're all in. It's like everything comes down to that thing, right?
Yeah, I think I have the flip side of that where I can hyper focus and sometimes that causes me to get a little tunnel visioned and that's where I need to remind myself to take those breaks to let my
Yeah,
subconscious mind work on some problems.
right.
So
It's just like
So
cayenne pepper in a stew or something, a little bit is good, but you can overdo it.
yeah,
yeah.
I overdo it a lot, and that's why I have to try to remember to do the exercise, the meditation, all those
So
things.
Mike, it's interesting for me that you mentioned your subconscious mind working, because that's something that I've talked to my family about, but I've never talked to anyone other than family. That it's for me, that's a quality that I feel like everyone has, but doesn't seem like anyone uses it, because I do it all the time. Like if I've got I don't have to think through a thing entirely. I just have to get it in my head, and then I can let it go. And my brain will, over
Yeah,
the next few days or weeks, will come up with the answer. I don't have to do anything,
yeah.
right?
Mine is similar, but I guess it's my routines don't have built-in, for instance, mowing the lawn. I call it productive meditation. If I can do something that like mowing the lawn or something that's, chopping some wood where you're productive and you don't have to think hard about it, you can just let your mind sort of drift and wander and sort of go on autopilot. Like I find myself being quite creative in those times,
Yeah.
being able to let go of problems that maybe I'm getting overly stuck on, um, and then come back and be better for it. Yet my
Right. It's there is for me, it's a real tool to be able to get something in my brain and then do something else, and then come back and expect an answer, or it just kind of delivers. I don't know. I don't always know when that's going to be. It just comes back and says, "Oh, this is the deal.
yeah,
This is what you need."
yep, exactly.
And
Yeah.
then it's very clear. And I get it entirely. It's like, okay, here you go. What next? What else do you want me to do? But I've actually never spoken with anyone other than family. My sister and I have talked long about this concept, because it's something I do all the time, right? In complex things or in just casual things. I mean, an example, like when I'm teaching,
Mhm.
the lesson on Sunday, I put that in my brain a week or so ahead,
Yep.
and then I'll come back and just revisit it later. I don't have to. I don't have to figure it all out immediately. I just have to get it in there first.
I
Right?
agree.
Just have
I
to
feel
get
the
that
same way about
outline.
similar things. What's that?
I said you just have to get that outline in your brain, and it'll fill
Yeah,
it
Yeah.
in.
yeah,
Introduce the topic, introduce the idea, and then it will come up with everything I need. Right?
yeah, yeah. That's for me. I find myself sometimes doing that and then periodically revisiting that outline and sort of working through it and then once again, you know, putting it on the back shelf and letting just sort of stew on it, you know.
Yeah. It's a powerful one. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Winston, I don't know that fit in with this outline, but it was interesting for me to hear Mike mention that because, like I said, I don't think I've ever talked to anyone about the concept, but I think it's a real tool that we all have. I just think very few. Maybe everyone
Absolutely.
does, and I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Part of that 90% of our brain that we don't normally use.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But I also think, I think for me, I think there's some similarities between, like, I think most of us, when we think of meditation, we can think of either prayer or the traditional, sitting with your legs crossed and stuff like that. But um, I have a hard time, I air quotes, doing it right, I have a hard time letting my mind actually letting it go in those situations. And that's where, for me, doing, like I said, productive meditation, like mowing the lawn, is my prime example, especially when I had a lawn that was small enough to use a push mower on. Um, you know, for me, that's a time when I let the brain go on autopilot, or, a road trip, driving. Um, and um, I feel like that's a form of meditation for me, or at least
Yeah.
you know, an easier thing to meditate, an easier way for me to meditate anyway.
We
Yeah.
need,
For
we need
for
to go,
me,
we
it
need to
has
go
to do
into,
with if I can engage my body in something um totally. So
Uh,
for example, for me, it could be mowing the lawn. I don't get as much of it out of that. But if I'm running,
hmm
uh, that's more. And or the other thing I do a lot is I play the piano, and it's stuff I've memorized, but it takes an incredible amount of concentration to make that happen. But then once I get my body kind of busy doing that, I do some of my
Yeah,
best thinking.
that's awesome.
yeah. I just wanted to bring up before we leave this topic the sunshine and the grounding, which apparently is very important for a lot of our bodily functions. Some that you wouldn't think of, like your microbiome.
I've heard that.
Wonder where you heard that. Uh,
Yeah.
so so number three, gratitude practice. Appreciate positives in your life. And how would you do that?
I think you just have to open your eyes. I think there's so many positives around us. You just have to open your eyes up and allow yourself to see it and enjoy things around you.
Yeah, I know some people keep a gratitude journal and things like that. But
Well, think about it, Winston. You did it at the beginning of this. You weren't talking about the success you had on the roof. You're happy not to be up there anymore, right? That's part of it. Taking the smiles out of, okay, that's done for the day. Yay, you know.
yeah, my knees can stop aching for a little while, hopefully.
Yeah. For me personally, the gratitude, uh, my most common prayers are actually just little gratitudes, especially when I'm out walking and I just, staring at a computer all day and then, just walking and seeing like, a beautiful maple tree or some, you know, maybe get surprised by a flock of turkeys or, um, those little things I just make me stop and think, ah, this is such a nice place to live. I'm so grateful for this or grateful for the beauty.
So the next one is support network, and they say you should surround yourself with who?
Dogs.
Did you say dogs?
Yeah, I got
Or
3.
cats, huh, Tammy?
Yeah, no, we'd rather have dogs too. We've got an awful lot of cats, but dogs definitely bring more companionship and more comfort than a cat does.
Yeah, I got a cat that tries to snuggle me when I'm outside too. So
Well, that wasn't exactly what I was thinking of, but
I know, I know.
Now my
generally,
cat claws me when she wants my attention. Not too relaxing.
generally in the field, they say you should surround yourself with people that you would strive to be like. Um, so how do you do that? Let's say back in the old days, back when $1 million was a lot of money. Let's say you want to be a millionaire. How would
Yeah.
you go about surrounding yourself with millionaires, for example?
Get a job as a waiter at the country club.
That's a good one.
I
But
mean, honestly, if that was really your goal, and the person was young enough to that's what I would tell them. You know,
I mean, how do you get, your lowly young self, let's say, who is just barely scraping by. How do you get the attention, the personal attention of a millionaire to help you and to share wisdom with you, to be your mentor or anything like that? I mean,
well, one of the things I think is being around people that you want to be like is understanding the way they think. I think that's um like their mindset and their approach to life is often sort of one of the foundations for becoming like them, and even just being around them
mhm.
can help with that, even if they don't take any specific interest in you.
But oftentimes you have to volunteer something,
Yep,
without any expectation of getting anything in return. And like,
absolutely.
for example, the book, The Millionaire Next Door. What if you go next door and offer to mow the guy's grass, and after you get through with the grass, ask him if he will spend 15 minutes instead of paying you money. He'll spend 15 minutes discussing your potential future or whatever, or how he did something. I think that kind of thing is how you have to, because you're probably not bringing a lot to the table of the people that you would really like to meet and learn
That's
from.
right.
So I think there's more to it than just that. In my view, it doesn't necessarily have to be people who are wildly successful in whatever the thing you're looking at. But I think we have to be conscious about the people that we um, emulate or spend time with, right? And it sounds pretty harsh, but if I go into a room and have a conversation with someone and they are really downer, bummer, everything's bad, I'm probably not going to hang out with them. Whereas, the people that have some new ideas about something and interesting, they're pursuing something that I'd never heard of, or trying or just achieving something that maybe I'd heard of before, but they are on it. Those are the type of people I like to gravitate towards, right? And because those are the people who will be successful, who will come up with great ideas, who will turn their lives into something interesting. But others, so there's an apathy that exists in our world that should be shunned, in my opinion. And here we are in this class, self-reliance. I guess not a class, but discussion, self-reliance. It's one of those times when we're talking to people who are also thinking about self-reliance, right? And what we can do and how we can do that and how we can prepare. And I guess I don't always have the exact I want this, and so I find the person that is exactly that. That
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, there's lots of studies on who you surround yourself with makes a lot of difference in your life.
I think it makes all the difference,
Kind of,
including family, by the way. I mean,
yeah.
a lot of people get stuck into family relationships where family is just detrimental to them. And, as soon as they can break out and get some other friends and people around them that have positive ideas and are wholesome or, whatever, it can make all the difference.
Yeah. Is the analogy of crabs in a bucket well known, or just in my head?
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead and say it fast.
Well, like crabs in a bucket, as soon as one starts climbing out and gets to the edge, the rest of them start pulling them down, trying to climb on their back, and it just ends up nobody gets ahead.
Yeah.
We haven't done much crabbing.
Well, we have, but we hadn't had enough to fill a bucket yet. But anyway, yes, I've heard of the analogy before. But anyway, so actionable steps. Let's get to solutions here. So, of course, break challenges into manageable tasks so you don't get overwhelmed. I guess that's a significant one, and I think for me, setting goals has kind of been a weakness of mine. Anybody else in that boat?
Yeah, definitely.
And according to the studies, just writing it down, makes a significant difference than those who don't write it down. And you should review it, at an appropriate time also. Interval.
Yeah, well, there's the writing it down, but there's also the just coming to it. I mean, it's that concept of whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Right?
Yeah.
So if you think you can, you write it down and then you move towards that. So
all gets back to that positive attitude, I guess, or the grit to keep at it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, and it's funny that when you were talking, or not you, that when she was talking about grit, I was thinking about what is that? I don't think of grit in my life. It sounds harsh and difficult. You know what I mean? Grit.
I think that
But
tenacity might be the better word.
yeah, exactly. What I was thinking about, and back to my piano playing, is when if you, and I think most of you heard me play, but if you don't know me and you hear me play, you think I'm amazing, right? But really, it's just a mental game I'm doing. It's not that I don't read music well, and I don't know a lot, but I love it. And years ago, my mom told me that my talent there wasn't in piano necessarily, but it was that I was willing to sit for hours at the piano learning
Yeah.
it.
Well,
Right?
so I think to me, grit is precisely the ability to keep going when things get hard. Where that sort of works out serendipitously is when we just happen to love the thing,
Oh, right. I agree.
right?
Yeah.
But real grit is being able is when you don't love the thing and still being able to push through, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Roofing a house.
yeah,
I was gonna say grit has been a major part of my life in the last 2 weeks.
yeah, it has. Hopefully not too much has come off the new shingles.
Well, it's everywhere. It's everywhere now.
I'll bet it is.
So so seek resources and guidance. Nowadays even step flashing and counter flashing is on the internet in video format. You can learn about anything you want to if you really want to learn about it.
Yep.
We got no excuses for not learning something. The resources are abundant out there.
And you can order it and get it in 2 days shipped to you. Any of the things.
Yep.
Number 4 is take calculated risk. I think that's a thing that holds a lot of people back. They're not willing to step out there and take any risk. To move forward, you have to take some risk. Whether it's investing or if it's applying for a job or going to school, you might fail, but you might not either. Like I think Bill just said, if you think you're going to fail, yeah, you will. So self-care, prioritize sleep and nutrition. We all know that that's becomes more and more important as we age. Exercise regularly, engage in hobbies, and in this line of discussion, what if that hobby that you enjoy could also be bootstrapped into a business or a side hustle? And if you like it, very much, all the better, some hobby that you like, if you can turn that into potential income or even displeasure. It would be great to have something that you love that produced a little bit of income. Resilience techniques. So reframe challenges as growth opportunities. Instead of what? Like
Disasters.
Yeah. I mean, in being unemployed, you can look at that as an opportunity or a serious challenge.
I think though with the unemployment, it's like Bill said, you have to experience it and realize that you're not going to be devastated from it. And that's with almost any challenge, that there are going to be hard things.
Yeah.
But you can make it through it. And one time I felt like we were way overemployed by having a business, a retail store. There was no end in sight, and rarely even a break from it, even a day's break. But we survived it and actually came out more knowledgeable and stronger from it. But in the middle of it, it was difficult to see any of the values that were going to come out of it. And I think that's what's the hardest part of any of our challenges. The middle of it, you never know when it is the middle or if an end is in sight. Like with the illnesses that we all have had to face.
Mm-hmm.
When is that end that we want it to be in sight? That we're going to be over it. Alex Burkhart has had bronchitis, and he's been dealing with the residual of it for months now. Persistent cough and everything that's just keeps grinding at him. But trying to find the end to it.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably had a lot of stress in his life too. So focus on the present versus what?
Prognosticating failure.
Well, and don't replay failures over and over. I can't remember what that's called, but
Quit digging the hole.
yeah.
The first thing you need to do is stop digging when you're in a hole and you're getting deeper and deeper.
Number 3 is cultivate hope. Anybody got any ideas what they're talking about there?
Speak positive affirmations to yourself.
Yeah.
Those actually are shown to be extremely powerful in changing our brain, even structurally, that they can observe. So I still think of the Saturday Night Live skit where he sits in front of the mirror, tells himself, doggone it, people like you, but it always makes me kind of cringe, but it actually works.
Develop problem-solving skills. I think we've talked about that tonight in various ways.
It's called motherhood. It's the necessity of invention.
Yeah. It's amazing. I've got some grandkids and some young in-laws and stuff that they're really bright, but it's just because of their life experiences have been short. It just amazes me, simple things to me that they don't understand and have no concept of. And, they haven't developed those skills yet. And a lot of skills, come from failures, and failures come from trying things. So anyway.
Yeah.
So support systems. So build strong relationships. We kind of talked about that with the mentors and friends and acquaintances. So if we can have positive people in our lives.
And when you can, call them to be in your presidency.
There you go.
Maybe join communities to broaden your relationships. Seek mentors. Sometimes that's easier said than done, but if you really want one, I think there's a way to make it happen. What's the Confucius saying? When the pupil is ready, the teacher will arrive, or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Connect with nature, especially earthing and sunshine, I think is really important part there. going for a walk in the woods or whatever. I used to work with a guy that almost every day he would come in and he would have an epiphany in the shower. And, he just, so it finally got to the point where every morning when he'd come in, we'd ask him, well, what'd you come up with in the shower today,
Yeah.
And so that was his way of stepping away from his mind or whatever and having inspiration. So was a I think it was a cold shower every morning. But anyway, so different ones of us have different ways of learning and thinking. So personal growth, learn from failures versus the opposite. Develop new skills. And there again, those skills could maybe support you someday. You don't know. Be involved in a good cause. Why?
It gets you out of yourself.
Yeah. Serve others.
Get your mind off yourself. I mean, especially like when you're unemployed. That's a great time to get involved in a good cause. Which a couple of people who are helping me on my roof are in that situation right now. Certainly good for me.
Yeah, it also, for me, by being involved in a great cause it makes me successful, right? I get to reap the benefits of being successful and of helping other people and of accomplishing something, even though maybe I only do the drip in the bucket, that greater volume of good, doing something for good. I get the kudos from that. I get the warm fuzzies, right? And I think that's part of our problem in our society is that people are so wrapped up in themselves and doing and the grindstone and as hard and fast and I just have to work harder, that they don't get those sparks of satisfaction of helping other people, of being involved in something bigger than themselves, of making something positive happen around them.
And sometimes it's a gratitude thing too. I mean, well, I'm glad I don't have that problem.
Oh, amen.
I'm so lucky. I should count my blessings more often. Of course, reflecting on our experiences has it's kind of a dual-edged sword, but have to be careful with that one. And 4 is cultivate self-awareness. We pretty much already talked about that one also. And various ways to do it. And they had some recommended resources here, which was Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, and of course the all famous 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and TED Talks like the one we listened to that was like 6 minutes. She's got a 59-minute version of that if you want to listen to the whole thing. But Angela Duckworth, and then there's Daniel Pink, who I think just goes by Dan Pink on the internet, but he's got a session on, he's got a whole series on resilience, and those are pretty good. And it says Coursera has a resilience course. I followed up on that one, but there's a lot of things there, a lot of resources, and so the key takeaways supposedly are adversity is temporary, hopefully.
Do you know what, Winston? When I read that, my first thought was, that's why we've got a prophet telling us to think celestial, to take us off the temporary. I feel like it's going to get bad. People will start questioning the meaning of life, and is there really a God? And I think that's why the prophet wants us to think celestial. It's so that our focus is not on the daily grind, but on the future.
Good point.
Yeah, because this life is temporary.
Yes, this is all temporary, and bajillions of people have no idea that this is just a moment in time.
Our lives too will pass away as if they were a dream.
Yes. I mean, I don't know how many of you do it, but I go on amazing vacations and then come home, and then 4 weeks later, it's like, did I really do that? Was that really true? Where did we go last? Right? It just all
Yeah.
becomes a fog. And I think that that'll be truly the same of life here on earth. It's like, I went there, but what did I do while I
Yeah.
was there?
I see pictures and I think, wow, we went there, we did that. But I think, realistically, probably at the end of our lives, we're going to go like, wow, I can't believe I did those things or went through those things or made it through all that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Okay, let's see if somebody can finish this quote on number 2. Focus on progress, not perfection. Perfection is the of good,
Enemy.
enemy of good. That's for those people who have perfection problems in their life. That's
That would be me.
an important thing to remember.
Yeah.
It's better to get a good thing done than not finish a perfection.
Mm-hmm.
I find it interesting that the Amish, even when they make quilts, they will intentionally make an imperfection in it because the only thing that's perfect is Christ. And so for us to try and make perfect everything that we do, we are trying to outdo Christ. And so it is within their belief system. You leave a flaw in it. Hopefully it's not a backward zipper in the dress you made, but
That's interesting. Okay, so cultivate resilience. I think we've pretty much discussed several ways to do that. And number 4, the final one is seek support. And we talked about various things we could do for seeking support, various ways. And there's a lot of stuff out there. So if nobody has any other discussion on this topic, I will close down recording, and we can those who want can hang around for a little additional discussion.
I turned on the TV for a while with the sound down, and they had interesting things on there.